but I could see it plain as day. Ethan's hand was still resting on her knee, close enough that the space between them felt like it could catch fire. I never thought I'd see something like that. That day, I was only going to drop a freshly washed shirt on the bed. The door was cracked open, and I caught sight of something no foster mother ever wants to see. Ethan, my foster son for almost 8 years, was sitting on the floor, whispering, chuckling softly, with someone. But it wasn't just harmless chatter. The way he looked at her, the way his hand rested, it stopped me cold. My heart was pounding, part shock, part something I didn't even want to put a name to. I stood there for a few seconds, feeling like the air had been sucked right out of the room. Ethan looked up. Our eyes met, and I knew, after today, nothing would ever be the same. He didn't say a word, just gave me this look, half defiance, half a silent plea not to ask questions. I stepped into the room and shut the door behind me. The air felt heavy, thick. That's when I noticed, sitting beside him was Grace, my ex-husband's old girlfriend. It was like ice shot through my veins. Grace, the woman who had nearly destroyed my marriage, now here, in my home, with my foster son. "What the hell are you doing, Ethan?" My voice was so rough I barely recognized it. Grace stood up, that same sly half-smile she'd worn all those years ago still on her lips. "Oh, just talking, Claudia." But I could see it plain as day. Ethan's hand was still resting on her knee, close enough that the space between them felt like it could catch fire. I wanted to yell, throw Grace out of my house, scream at Ethan that he'd just crossed every line there was. But a part of me was chained down by this sick, gnawing curiosity, wanting to know when this all began. I took a deep breath, tried to stay calm, but every word that came out of my mouth felt like it had a needle in it. "Living room. Both of you. Now." Ethan glanced at Grace, then slowly stood. I knew. It was going to be a long night. Later, I just stood there, frozen in the kitchen doorway, a glass of wine shaking in my hand. Ryan didn't say a word, just looked at me with eyes that felt like they were both begging and daring me at the same time. The tension was so tight, it felt like a thin wire about to snap. "We can't," I whispered, but my voice was so weak, even I didn't believe it. Ryan stepped closer, slow, deliberate, certain. "It's not a mistake, Anna," he murmured, his voice low and trembling. "You feel it too, just like I do." I took a step back, but my spine hit the kitchen cabinet. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst through my chest. I knew I had to stop this now. But those eyes, they pulled me right to the edge. I drew in a shaky breath. "Ryan, this will destroy everything." He gave a faint smile. Not happy, but almost bitter. "Everything's been destroyed for a long time, Anna. You're just the first person who's ever really seen me. And right then, the door opened. Michael. I didn't even have time to react before he was standing in the doorway, his eyes locked on the too small space between me and Ryan. No words, no extra movement, just a stare. Heavy, sharp, knowing. Ryan stepped back immediately, head down, shoving his hands into his pockets like he could hide everything. And me, I just stood there, throat tight, unable to speak. Michael stared at me for a long moment, then turned away. But I knew. Whatever we had was gone in that instant. The rest of the night, he didn't say a word, just sat in the living room, the glow from the TV flickering across a face as cold as stone. I sat in the dining room, listening to the clink of silverware on plates, each sound loud, heavy, suffocating. Ryan had disappeared upstairs at some point. The house was big, but the air felt like it was trapped in a windowless room. Finally, Michael turned off the TV, stood up, and walked straight toward me. "What are you going to tell me?" His voice was low, not loud, but enough to make me shiver. I pressed my lips together, searching for words. Nothing happened. He looked at me for a long time. No suspicion now, just a deep, heavy disappointment. "I've lived with you long enough to know when you're lying." I wanted to explain, to yell that it was nothing more than a moment of confusion, but deep down I wasn't even sure if that was true. Michael leaned in close, his voice low enough to be a whisper. "Ryan is my foster son, and you almost—" I cut him off. "Don't say it." But he kept going. "No, Anna, I have to. Because if you won't admit it, then we're just gonna live in a house built on lies." His words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I was shaking, not from fear, but from knowing. After tonight, nothing between us would ever be the same. And upstairs, I knew Ryan was still awake. Maybe he'd heard every word. The next morning, the sky was a dull gray, like it had borrowed my mood. Michael was already gone. No note, no text, just gone. The kitchen was so quiet, the ticking of the wall clock felt like it was drilling into my skull. I was pouring coffee when Ryan appeared. Plain t-shirt, hair still messy, but his eyes, calm, too calm. "What did Michael say to you?" he asked, his voice light, almost casual. I kept my eyes on the coffee. "Nothing. We're not talking about last night." He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, his eyes locked on mine. "But you know he won't believe you. And if he doesn't believe you, what do you think happens next?" I froze, my back pressing into the kitchen counter. He leaned in, close enough for me to feel his breath against my ear. "You can turn it into an accident, or you can make it a secret. One only you and I will ever know." My heart was pounding. Part of me wanted to push him away, scream, run, but another part was falling right into those eyes, like being pulled into a dark, bottomless well. "You decide, Anna," he said, smiling. But it wasn't warmth. It was the kind of smile that felt like a sweet, slow threat. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't know, but because I realized either way, whatever I chose would destroy everything. And in that moment, I knew my life would never be peaceful again.